So after months of waiting, it was official on the 16th. Aaron Rodgers signs his one-year extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming back for a second consecutive year. Yesterday, it was announced by Rodgers himself to the media. Take it for a grain of salt, says a lot of things and so forth. We all know him, of course, but told the media that the 2026-27 season will be the last of his career for the 42-year-old, and of course, during the season, will be at 43 at one point. And again, what I just said moments ago, take it for a grain of salt. We'll see. Who knows? But I do believe that this will be his final year. I do believe that. Whether he actually says he's actually truthful or the league kind of pushes him out, because at some point in time, I don't think the Steelers can come back another year with Rodgers, even though I do think he had a good season last year, and I think he will build off of that this year. At some point in time, you kind of have to look for the future for that as well. So we look at for Rodgers and the roster going on here, going into 2026, it is really good. And this is certainly a buildup of, combination of last year a little bit and more so this year. Last year, getting the big trade with DK Metcalf, giving the extension, had a little bit disappointing season. Didn't even crack 900 receiving yards, was suspended for 2 games towards the end of the year, of course, with his interaction with a Detroit Lions fan. But they built off it this year too, trading for Michael Pittman Jr. as well. I think a great wide receiver. I think at times underrated. I shouldn't say maybe great. Maybe you could say great as well. I would say very, very good wide receiver in Michael Pittman. I think underrated at times, certainly being a good number 1 wide receiver for years for the Colts. Got pushed out of Indianapolis because of Alec Pierce getting his big contract. Don't agree with that move there, but not going to go into the details of that. But I do like the acquisitions who get Michael Pittman alongside DK Metcalf. It's a great duo you have there too. 2 prominent number 1 wide receivers that have been, Seattle for DK, and of course with the Steelers last year, and so will be that, of course, with them this year, as well as Michael Pittman, like I talked about for years for Indianapolis. Then you go in the second round and get Jermaine Bernard as well out of Alabama, and have a really good, dare I say, potential great 3 wide receivers. Now, it's certainly Bernard. It's going to be interesting his rookie year and how things shake out. You have Roman Wilson. I want to add there too. I don't know what he's going to showcase in his 3rd season. I mean, didn't do anything his first year in 2024. Didn't have 200 receiving yards this past year. Who knows what's going to happen in his 3rd year, but still want to throw his name out there too. But looking at certainly the big 3, Metcalf, Pittman Jr., and Bernard, already bolstered that wide receiver group immensely. Even just looking at this year as well, given the help of DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers. You also have in the backfield Jalen Warren coming back, and also Rico Dowdle, who had over 1,000 yards last year too. So a great running back duo for there with Warren and Dowdle. Tight ends, you have Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, still a solid tight end duo there. You bolstered the offensive line, especially in the first round there, to help Aaron Rodgers or whoever was going to be the quarterback at that time, Mason Rudolph, Howard, or Aller. So I like what they did offensively. Got a lot of help all across the board there, and now this looks like an offense that could be very good. And again, what I talk about for the AFC North, they have the opportunity to win that division, even with Lamar Jackson, even with Joe Burrow. They have truly the opportunity to do so, especially for Aaron Rodgers. When we look at his stats last year, they were pretty good. I think they're pretty solid, especially for a guy his age. Really good, great to go to. A little over 3,300 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Had, of course, an amazing start to Week 1 against the Jets. Yes, I know it was New York Jets, but we didn't know they were going to be as bad as they were, as the weeks gone on. But certainly had a great debut with the Steelers there in Week 1, and like everything, of course, it had some up and downs with the season, but overall had a pretty good year in 2025. And I also argued too, even before when he got to Pittsburgh, that he had a really good year in 2024. I mean, certainly did not transition to wins, and the record was not great. And the Jets being the Jets, dysfunctional, which still dysfunctional without him, of course. But even in his 2nd year, his full year really with the Jets, he had almost 4,000 yards passing, or say just under 3,900 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, had a 63% completion percentage, went up to 65.7 this year. Passing yards and touchdowns went down a little bit, but interceptions went down as well. Like we talked about, over 3,300 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions with that. So I see what he did with the Steelers' first year, and now again, when you look at the roster they have offensively around them, piece around them, this is really good. It is. And when I look at the schedule here, break it down real quick, it's very favorable up until their bye. Look at the first half of the season before the bye week in Week 9. They can beat Atlanta. They can certainly beat Cincinnati because of them and their history of always Cowboys having slow starts to the seasons. They can get them early. Now, if this was certainly down the stretch in week 10, could they beat them? I don't know. That's a different story. But early on, with their slow starts, they could steal a game right there in the division there. So you have that. You have Cleveland, of course. Indy, I believe they'll take down. Tampa, I think, will be a struggle a little bit, but that's only a winnable game. New Orleans, they'll win that. Cleveland, they'll win that. They'll win the series there. And they already wrap up the series with Cleveland before you even get to the bye week, which is a little bit surprising they would have it that close, not spread the series out a little bit longer. So before the bye week, you have, at worst case, 3 losses? I pin it as the Patriots, Bengals, and Buccaneers. But how I feel, I think they can certainly go with the Tampa and win. They can win Cincinnati at home. And the only loss I truly will still pin down, regardless, is New England week 2. So at best case scenario, you're looking at 7-1, maybe 5-3 at worst case. They can do that. And then you look at after the bye week, Cincinnati, I will pin that as a loss. The next 3 I would say is losses: Cincinnati, Philly, Denver. So you look at that. That's a very rocky start, which makes the first half of the season even greater for them to have a big start, especially if they go 7-1. At that point, they were 7-4, as opposed to like I said, 5-3. You're 5-5 at that point at 500. Houston will be interesting to see how it plays out, and that's a big factor with C.J. Stroud and how he can handle things. You look at Jacksonville too. Again, very iffy how it's going to be with them as well. I'm not 100% sure they're going to be the same team next, as they were last year. This year, I'm not going to say they're going to get a huge step back. I just don't know how things are going to play out with that. But certainly a winnable game for the Steelers. You have the Ravens, who I think they'll split the series with too. Carolina, they should win. Tennessee, they should win. Baltimore, again, wherever you want to put the win and loss in for 15 and 18, that's up to you for you to decide. So I look at that, and it's certainly, again, very manageable. This is also a division that has 2 new rookie head coaches, with Todd Monken with the Browns and Jesse Minter for the Ravens. Now, I don't think the Ravens are going to take a huge step back with having a rookie head coach. Certainly, you can take advantage of the Browns with that too. I mean, Stefanski could still be there. You can still win those games. So there is some new faces with the division that could help. You have also new face with the Steelers, but not a rookie first-time head coach. You have Mike McCarthy, who I'm not the biggest fan, but has a resume, does have a Super Bowl all those years ago, has had success with the Packers and the Cowboys. So you look at that, and certainly has a veteran head coach that knows what he's doing, has gone to the playoffs multiple times, had a lot of winning seasons in the regular season, and now paired up with Aaron Rodgers for the first time since 2018. Yes, it's a familiar face of the quarterback position, and again, given everything they have around them, it's no longer Mike Tomlin, and it's the same old 8-9, 9-8, 10-7 season. It's no longer just being average and mediocre and just getting to the playoffs, and that's that. Where they have a good chance to win a playoff game. They have a chance to actually be better than just barely scraping by for that, for the instance in previous years, it felt like for Tomlin. So you look at that, and I do feel pretty confident in the Pittsburgh Steelers with Rodgers, with the offensive pieces they have around them, with the head coach of Mike McCarthy and a new voice in that locker room. I look at this, and I think the Steelers will surprise some people. And I do pin them, early on and say that, as a dark horse, they have a legitimate shot to win the AFC North. I don't think people should scoff at that, immediately go to the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson. That's very reasonable and easy as to why, with, of course, 2-time MVP in Lamar, Derek Henry, the offensive group they have there as well, defense that will certainly take you would hope to take a step forward as opposed to they were in 2025, even though they did get better as the year went on. You look at that, again, the Bengals too, they have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. It just, there's always question marks with injuries with those guys, especially, more so I should say, with Joe Burrow. Slow starts to the season like they always are with Zach Taylor, and the defense too is certainly the biggest X factor of that too. I mean, it's very tough to replicate how bad they were last year, but we'll see how things play out there. With Trey Hendrickson no longer being there, that's a huge blow to their roster on the defensive side. So we'll see how that plays out as well. So you look at that, there's a lot of room for opportunity for the Steelers to win the AFC North and be one of the better teams in the AFC. Now I'm going to sit here and say they're going to be a Super Bowl caliber team. They have a legit shot to get there. As of right now, no. I mean, that's something we're going to have to wait and see how the season plays out, actually, for everyone else and the Steelers to kind of make that make that conclusion later on in the year, where we're in the second half of the year and we get a big sample size to figure out, are the Steelers legitimate, how they play, and again, as well as the other teams in the AFC, how things shake out there before we consider that, when we get closer to the playoffs, we can have that conclusion or talk again about, are the Steelers a legitimate threat to make it all the way. But certainly I think they will be better than they were under the last few years with Mike Tomlin. Again, a new voice, a new direction, as well as more offensive pieces for Aaron Rodgers. Now, trying to get back to the Aaron Rodgers standpoint, he will prove people wrong. I really do feel like that for the folks that think he's washed, that he's not the same, certainly not the best. I mean, obviously he's not the same player as he once once was, especially the back-to-back MVP years in Green Bay. But people think he's washed. He doesn't have any anymore. Aaron Rodgers can still do it, and he will have a better season than he did in 2025. I truly believe that. He will have a better year this year than last year. I think there's no question with that. Better players around them, certainly a much better help at the wide receiving group with Pittman and Bernard, along with DK Metcalf. You can hope that he can have a bounce back season and kind of have progress more than just having 850 receiving yards in his first year there, especially with the big money he's getting paid. You hope that he can be at least a 1,000-yard receiver and has the capability, of course, but certainly open things up more for all those guys there. And for that too, again, I'm very interested to see and look to a point excited to see what the Pittsburgh Steelers do with this team. Once again, bringing back the schedule up here, I think it's very favorable. And why, this is me putting a lot of faith in the offense and Aaron Rodgers. I like the schedule. I do. I think this is something that's very favorable. Again, when I go back to before the bye week in week 9, at best case, I can really see 7-1. They can really do that because who can really push them? Atlanta, you do have Tua there. That's gonna be very interesting how that plays out with Stefanski. And I do like the move for Stefanski going to Atlanta there. I think it's certainly a better spot for Tua with being a dome and just a fresh new start. Have some good pieces there in Bijan Robinson with Drake London with Kyle Pitts. It's gonna be very interesting to see there too. Young up and coming defense as well for that side too. New England, I think regardless, it's gonna be a loss with that too. I mean, there's certainly question marks of how things are gonna be playing out with the Patriots, with them getting a little bit tougher schedule. How they're gonna be with that. I still think they will be one of the best teams in the AFC. So I do have that as a loss there. And what I mentioned before with the Bengals, off to a slow start. The Browns, Indianapolis. I mean, who knows at this point? Very shaky with them bringing back Daniel Jones, but you kind of question, was it just a fluke last year? Can they build off of what they did at least in the first half of the year and turn things around? New Orleans is still with Kellen Moore still going through their rebuild as well in the second year. You don't know what's going to happen in the quarterback position too, and you get the Browns again. So really the only two tough teams, three, like I said, is New England, Cincinnati, and Tampa, but certainly Tampa and Cincinnati are winnable games. And you could say that for the Patriots too, but I'm still going to put that as a loss. So it's not for me at least. It might sound crazy to say for everyone else listening to this, but to me, I don't think it's crazy to say that the Steelers could be 7-1. I really do believe that with the piece they brought in, especially again bolstering the offensive line and bringing skilled players in here and a new head coach and McCarthy, they can do this and having that relationship and rapport for better or for worse with Rodgers. I do believe that they can really surprise people at least in the first half of the season. The second half is more challenging, no question about that. It's much more challenging, and that's where I want to kind of, again, what I said moments ago, I want to wait and see and not go to lengths of this is a Super Bowl caliber team or really project what they're going to be in the postseason, because the second half of the year is going to be the ultimate test. It's more a little bit more of a, dare I say, a cakewalk for the first half. I don't want to be too harsh on that and bash those teams I just did moments ago, but the second half is really going to be difficult there. I mean, again, you look at the stretch from week 10 to week 15, that is very difficult. It is, even though Cincinnati didn't make the playoffs, it's a elite offense you're facing. And you have a playoff team in Philly, a playoff team in Denver, playoff team in Houston, playoff team in Jacksonville. Baltimore didn't make the playoffs, but you expect, again, with what I just said, Lamar Jackson and so forth, they are going to bounce back and be a better team. So that's definitely a tough stretch down there. You get two easier games. Even in Carolina could be, depending on how things go for them, could be certainly an interesting game in week 16 for that too. On top of that, Tennessee should be one there, like we talked about again from Baltimore. So the second half is really going to be the ultimate test there. So it makes the first half of the season for Aaron Rodgers from the Steelers much more important to be that 7-1, because you can kind of certainly ride the wave and kind of weather the storm for that, especially in those first few weeks there, and hopefully you can steal those games there. I mean, again, they have the opportunity even at week 10 when Bengals at that point kind of hit their stride as they usually do. You could still get that win there. Houston, depending on how things go with C.J. Stroud, you can get that win there. Jacksonville, you can potentially get that one as well too, and what I said as well, splitting the series with the Ravens. So there are wins there, but that's going to be the ultimate test when we get to that point for the season before, again, when we talk about the postseason and how I view the caliber of team, how far they can go there. But certainly they are a playoff caliber team with Mike McCarthy and what they've done there. And so even right now, I feel confident saying they can win at least a playoff game going forward there. Way too early for all that too. But I will say at the very least for that, how far they will go in the postseason, I don't know. But I think I'm very confident they have a much better chance of winning a playoff game with McCarthy in this group as opposed to Mike Tomlin the last few years or however long it's been since they won a playoff game. So again, with that too, with Rodgers, it's gonna be his, if you want to take it at face value, talks a lot, but this will be his last dance. So this will be his final year in the league here, 23, year 23 for him. And that's going to be, it's going to be tough. It's going to be weird seeing at the end of the year. If it is true and he's gone, like I taught in the beginning of the video, that is truly the end of the era of what I grew up with other great quarterbacks, watching, and slowly but surely as the last few years have gone on, them slowly, parting ways and going off to do whatever they want to do in their personal lives. And now Aaron Rodgers being that last final piece there is going to be, it's going to be weird to see at least in next year. But too, with his antics, we could all be maybe excited for that too, that we no longer have to hear with him or deal with him. But sure, he'll be on the Pat McAfee show a lot, other things too. So he won't be truly gone. Maybe be gone off the field, but certainly in terms of on TV and stuff like that, will always be there. So maybe your thoughts down below on Aaron Rodgers coming back. How you think how Rodgers himself will do, as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers with their schedule. How you think they will do as well. Will they be a playoff team? Will they miss the playoffs? How good would they be? Let me know your thoughts down below.